The Ancient Fuelweaver is widely considered a sort of pseudo final boss for Don't Starve Together. To be able to start the fight, you need to kill the Ancient Guardian and loot the Ancient Key, so you have to go through the ruins, the hardest area in the game. Kill the Shadow Pieces and loot the Shadow Atrium. They're a raid boss, they're very difficult. You need to find 8 fossils and loot them, and you need to find the atrium of the ruins and head to the end area, and it's like a huge labyrinth to go through filled with monsters. Then you have to build the fossil correct way, insert the key in the portal, and put the shadow atrium in the fossil to begin the fight. Easily the most complicated boss fight to start, and the fight itself is incredibly difficult too, especially for solo players due to the Fuelweaver's absurd healing abilities. With that said, the Ancient Fuelweaver speedrun is also widely regarded as the hardest DST speedrun. You can tell why. But here's the thing, the shadow pieces can only be spawned in on a new moon. To transport the statues' heads to repair them takes days to do. There's a new moon on day 21, which is just too long. You got too much free time in there, and that can really ruin the speedrun. But there's also a new moon on day 1. That's not helpful though, right? It takes days to transport the shadow pieces' heads after all. Well, that is correct. It takes days to transport them. There's actually a method to use an intentional mechanic in an unintended way to spawn the shadow pieces before day 21. As long as the player spawns one of the 3 shadow pieces on day 1, this strategy is possible. Specifically, speedrunners are looking for the Nighthead, as its tier 1 form is the least dangerous and it won't kill itself on nearby monsters by aggroing them with its area of effect attacks, unlike the other 2 pieces. Basically, Clay implemented a fix for players spawning in the shadow pieces at the very end of a new moon because they don't spawn in instantly. It just spawns in kind of staggered just a little bit. This way, it wouldn't be super frustrating if you spawned them at the end and then it just ended up not spawning them all. But they didn't think about the player dragging a shadow piece around for days while they bring the other piece's heads to the statues. That way, they can spawn the others whenever they get there. This is no easy process. The engineer of this strategy, Korean Waffles, was successfully able to use it in a speedrun, but it took him until the end of day 8 to kill the shadow pieces before going on to finish the run by day 17. I should say this is an unseeded run, so the time is unbelievably impressive. The main reason it still takes so long to kill the shadow pieces is because they're just so absurdly difficult with weak gear. They're designed to be fought with multiple people, that's why it's called a raid boss, and they have 3 phases. Using Korean Waffle's kill order of Knight, Bishop, and then finally Rook, the bosses have a total of 13,400 HP. In the final phase, the tier 3 Shadow Rook can deal a whopping 165 damage per hit, and it's actually unkiteable if you don't have a speed boost, so he used Wolfgang's speed boost along with a road, that way he could kite it. The only real way to fight this is with good gear, so the time is also used to collect strong gear, not just transport heads. Also, doing this speedrun unseeded is the worst thing ever now. Korean Waffles did this years ago, and since then they buffed Ancient Fuelweaver to make his cages hit you even when you're next to the void. By the way, you're still able to mess them up a little bit if you're by the pillars, but that's not feasible for the entire fight. So you basically need a lazy explorer and thus need a cane. Or you can play Wartox and use his teleport, but that makes Fuelweaver hard due to damage thresholding because he can heal so much using his Woven Shadow minion. And that's the bug that changes everything in this speedrun. Like and subscribe for more.